Rise and Grind podcast episode 2. I heard somewhere that the biggest determining factor of whether a podcast is going to be successful or not is simply by the content that you bring, and if it's guest related, the guests that you bring on the podcast. And I believe that to be true 1000%. And I started racking my brain about hey, who can be the inaugural guest? And since this podcast is specifically for people that are rise and grinders, I simply thought in my mind, okay, who do I know in my contact list that I can reach out to that has accomplished the most things or climbed the highest mountain in their given field? I don't care if that's knitting. I don't care if that's bowling. I don't care if that's golf. I don't care if it's business, because this podcast is not for just about one thing or the other. It's collectively listening to other rise and grinders, listening to their stories and learning from them. Now, this person that we are interviewing today came into my life in 2010 when I went to the University of Texas at San Antonio. He was my assistant coach. His name is Bill Rogers. And for most of you out there that aren't a golf nut, you probably don't know his name. But let me just do a little bit highlight reel for you for his career. He played the PGA Tour for about a decade, back from the mid 70s to mid 80s. In 1981, he won 7 times worldwide, 4 times on the PGA Tour, including the British Open. He was named the Golfer of the Year, Player of the Year for the PGA Tour. Now, the PGA Tour is the best tour in the world. He was the best player on the best tour. He was the greatest golfer in the world for that given time, for 1981. Now, his accomplishes are lengthy. He won a Ryder Cup in 1981. He was assistant captain in another winning Ryder Cup year in 1999. He has climbed the Mount Everest of golf. He got to not only an insanely elite level, but he is the only person that I know personally and have a very strong relationship with, where he took his game, his craft of choice, if you will, and he elevated it from a world-class level to the best in the world. Just think about that. Whatever you do in your life, just zoom out a little bit and be like, hey, if I'm a realtor, if I'm a hairdresser, if I'm fill in the blank, whatever you do, if I'm a teacher, imagine being the best in the world. That is what Bill was in the early 80s. He was the man. His peer group at the time was probably the most loaded in professional golf history. The other high-level players are Hall of Famers. There's dozens of them. And for the folks that don't know Bill like I do, everyone looks at his golf resume as the most important thing. But I can truly share with you that he, outside of my dad, has probably had the most effect and say in my character of anyone else in my life. He developed my character through those 4 years at the University of Texas at San Antonio so well. And looking back, I'm so blessed to have met him. Bill and I touch base a couple times a year, check in with one another, see how things are going, send him pictures of Chipotle when I get to the odd chance. And I encourage those of you that are listening to this, there is a lot of golf talk, and by no means do I want to make the podcast about golf, but just replace golf with whatever you're trying to do or whatever goal you're trying to go after. The insights that Bill shares in our conversation go so deep, and they go so much more than golf. It goes into life. It goes into dealing with adversity. It goes into trusting yourself, believing yourself, knowing things are going to be right, having the confidence to get over a hurdle and get to that next level. I hope I did a good job with the interview, asking him about those intangible things, the things that you can't touch, because I think that's where not only happiness in our life comes from, but I think that's where true improvement comes from. And I think that's where the next level of whatever you guys are trying to get to, maybe it's business, maybe it's fitness, maybe it's health, maybe it's family. It's not always a thing that you buy. It's not always like this fancy new widget that you find online. That's the answer. Now we're good to go. Oh, this lead source is going to be the answer for me to triple my business or double my business or whatever the case is. I love hearing Bill talk about his inner confidence when he was playing, his belief in himself, and how he used that to overcome adversity. I really hope you guys enjoy this podcast. We're coming out hot. We got the former best player in the world, Bill Rogers. Without further ado, all right, here we are, Bill Rogers. Thank you so much for your time. I know that your time is valuable, and I can't appreciate you enough.
No, nobody I'd rather spend a few minutes with than Ryan Wary.
And you're still in San Antonio, same house, kind of.
Yeah, we're here. I can't imagine ever leaving, honestly.
I know. I think of San Antonio all the time, especially I'm looking out my window right now and it's legitimately minus 30 out. So,
Oh my gosh, Ryan, you're kidding.
I know.
I won't tell you what it is looking out my window.
I know. I know. Well, Bill, I want to dive right into it. And I'm kind of thinking start earlier in your career. And, with the podcast that I want to grow, it's, we're obviously going to talk a lot about golf today. But I also like to share more than that, because I know you've touched a lot of different sides of golf. Not only that, but you've been a really amazing mentor to not only myself, but tons, dozens, hundreds of people out there. So I do want to touch on that a little bit. But take me back, Bill, kind of growing up. When did golf start to come into your life? And when did you, quote unquote, get bit by the golf bug? Do you remember those times much?
Well, absolutely, and very vividly. I was born into a golf family. My father and middle brother, were very good players. And, as an 8-year-old, 7-year-old, 8-year-old, I'd follow them to the golf course, shag balls, and just hang out with them. And that, in fact, was being bit by the bug. I couldn't stand it. And my father and my brother, frankly, liked to compete. And I think that I was just naturally strung up with that ability to want to compete. But Ryan, one thing that, as much as anything that I remember about early beginnings of golf was, and probably because I watched my father and brother, again, to repeat myself, they were very good players. But the first time I picked a golf club up, I could do it. I could hit a golf ball, and it was almost like, from a technical standpoint, or hitting a golf ball, that wasn't even a hard obstacle to overcome. And I immediately fell in love with the competitive nature of it. And like so many, kind of fell into junior golf, and my parents were wonderful about involving me and going to the golf course and just turning me loose and let me be around the game and learn it. And so I just kind of evolved in the game as a result of being born into a golf family.
I love that. And was that in Texarkana then? Is that where you grew up?
Well, no. I mean, my dad was an Air Force officer, and we lived all over the place, Germany, Africa, and many places in the United States. But I could definitely say that when he was stationed in Alabama, in Montgomery, Alabama, we were involved, or he was at a golf course there, meaning that's where he was, where he played his golf, and that's kind of where I got started.
I love that. I love that. Now, fast forwarding a little bit there through your junior days, sounds like it was, I guess I would ask the question, when did you know, like, hey, there's something here, we should pursue it? And then second to that, you obviously played at University of Houston from 1970 to 74. When did the whole college golf aspect kind of come into your mind?
Yeah. Well, I'll start with saying, back to that point of loving the game and could do it immediately, and the competitive nature of it. I Right from the get-go, I hated to lose more than I liked to win. So I was a competitor, strung up. So I wanted to be involved in beating somebody and playing somebody and seeing how good I was. But, that transitioned into, playing formal junior golf. And then My dad retired from the Air Force to Texarkana, Texas, and that's where a golf professional at a country club that we joined there took me under his wing, began to develop me more from a golfer into a player. And kind of the evolution of that was to move from high school golf and the thought of going to a university to play golf. And really, honestly, I could play. I was a little hotshot junior in my little part of the world up in Northeast Texas, but I don't know, by God's grace, Coach Dave Williams, who was really the godfather of college golf at University of Houston, he gave me an opportunity to come play golf there, and I knew, and they were the golf powerhouse in the '60s, early '70s, even before that, the late '50s. So I naturally jumped at that, and that kind of really started the serious journey of playing golf.
I love that. Couple things I just want to touch on there because, and I have this conversation a lot with a specifically one good friend of mine, but it's about being from a smaller center, whether it be Texarkana, whether it be Southern Alberta, and being kind of the man or the player in a smaller, what I call like a small pond. You can be a big fish in a small pond, but then when you get thrown out into the ocean, you really find out if you can swim with the sharks. So could you speak to that? Maybe that inner feeling of always wanting to be surrounded by better players, hence University of Houston, and then also I remember you telling me a story about those qualifying rounds that you guys had at University of Houston. The amount of rounds was
In,
crazy.
in endless qualifying rounds, which, when I walked in the door at the University of Houston, Ryan, there were 40 players on the team. I walked in with 23 freshmen. So the competition level, if you could qualify for the U of H golf team, the tournament golf was easy. It was getting on the team that was difficult. And so you really could refine your skills, but it was a grind, no doubt. And the it was real cut and dried, though, real black and white. The playing good took care of everything, and that was a goal that I loved. I wanted to be play college golf. I wanted to be the best that I could be, and I was always challenged. And as anything in life, I don't, whether it's golf or anything, if you kind of have that goal in mind, and you want to be the best you can be, you want to be in an environment that really gives you every opportunity. Yeah.
I didn't know there was that many freshmen, and for the folks listening, there's only 5 guys that get on the actual plane or the
Yeah.
van to go compete in the tournament. So, and maybe sticking on this point here a little bit, I wanted to circle back to your mentor there. You call him Mr. Robinson, right?
Yeah, thank you for going back there, because like many of us, we only get to where we get because of important people being in our path and encouraging us, so on and so on. He was my mentor. He was my coach. He was my friend, and he invested uh, a whole lot of time, a lot of his life into me, and as a result, I was able to, have a chance anyway.
Love
I'll never
that.
forget. Let me. On that note, I'll never forget going to the tour school and getting my tour playing card, my playing privileges. I'll never forget calling him and telling him that I made it, and he said, "Well, we've got a chance now." So that, back to my point there.
That's amazing. So, talk to me, Bill, about you're in college, you're in a new environment, and I fell victim to this. You obviously avoided it, and I was planning to talk about this later on, but since we're on this topic, whenever a person, or specifically in the golf world, you get into kind of that NCAA realm, we're always trying to get better. I think that's a natural progression, whether it's golf or otherwise. And it's so easy to go down that wrong path.
Yeah.
And for a lot of folks, even myself included, we always think, oh, we need to change our swing, we need to change something to get better. Could you speak to like maybe the appeal of that, and how did you avoid that? Because it's very easy to fall down that rabbit hole and never
Uh,
come back.
never more so than now, but I'm glad we'll speak probably more maybe your journey a little bit as I was exposed to it. But that didn't, from a mechanical standpoint, I knew that I had, because of Mr. Robinson, had really developed some reasonably good fundamental skills to play the game. But I was so intensely competitive that was all I was concerned with. I was not. I wasn't concerned with the. I just wanted to get the golf ball in the hole and compete. That was so much a hyper focus of mine that I never. And I was surrounded with Jim McLean, who is a world renowned golf teacher. He was on my golf team, and he was very much involved in kind of the fundamental golf swing, golf technique type path. But I just wanted to play. I wanted to see. It woke up every day, wanted to see how good I was, and that was my challenge. And experience, frankly, is the best teacher. And I was somehow or another gifted to learn more from my mistakes and my successes. And there were plenty of mistakes, by the way, and failures. But that's the great learning environment there. You want to be somewhere where you can learn and get better. And that was the case at University of Houston.
I love that. Sounds like it was a huge part in your development as a player. Sounds like, not technically, but more from the grit, the player character standpoint, right?
Yeah, no doubt. And I would tell you that a majority of those 40 players that I referred to, they all had one goal in mind. They wanted to go the professional golf tour, the PGA tour, and that's where I wanted to go. That was, education, frankly, be quite transparent about that, took a back seat, but I wanted to get to the tour. I felt good playing. I felt good competing. I felt good, and that I was always on the right path to uh, get a chance to play golf for a living. Yeah.
hmm Yeah, I love that. Now let's, transition then, because that's a perfect kind of segue into your early years on tour. And for folks that followed you or know your story, they want to focus in on like a couple years in the early 80s, which
Yeah.
we'll get to. But I know that there's likely a gap from, when you got out of the University of Houston to that elite world class level of about 5 or 6 years there. And that's where I kind of want to spend some time diving deep with you, Bill. Like, what did not only qualifying, getting your card look like back then? Because I know it's way different now. But how were those first years kind of cutting your teeth on in another new environment? Not only University of Houston, but now on quote the tour.
Yeah. Well, I didn't come out with a, like kind of the can't miss guy, and you come out with a lot of, all the applause and all the things that follow say a Ben Crenshaw or Hal Sutton or some of the can't miss, Phil Mickelson types. Um, Heck, I started at the very bottom and pure green rookie, and having waited and made my way through the qualifying process, which is to date the hardest, obstacle that I ever had to encounter. It was tough. Ultimately, I ended up playing. The final part of the tour qualifying school was 144 holes, and out of, I guess, the year I got my card, which was in 1974, there were, I think they said 3,500 applicants nationwide. Ultimately 19 of us got our cards, so it was a
Wow.
grueling process. But I'll never forget when I stepped across the goal there. uh, I'll never forget the feeling of, this is right where I want to be. This is what I was made for. There was a complete comfort level there, and a lot had to do with that because I had a supportive wife. I liked the lifestyle, and so everything that came with it just fit perfectly. And I had a chance, and but that was the beginning of it. Yeah, getting through the tour school process, and then 1975, I began my tour career.
144 holes, so that's 8 rounds.
That didn't even include the 72 previous holes, which they call a regional qualifying, which was in on the East Coast, and the West Coast was the 144 holes. So it was a whole lot of golf to get down to 19 of us. You know.
Yeah, no
It
doubt.
took a huge toll on oh God, it was tough. Yeah.
So I was looking a couple days ago, just refreshing, getting some material for this, and Wikipedia, by the way, has you at 148 pounds. I'm like, what? That's crazy. But if you're playing 8 rounds consecutively, walking in stress, right?
148 was as heavy as I ever got. Oh, God. The tour takes a toll in many ways, and man, there's a lot of physical. To be frank, there's a lot of physical effort to not only just the golf, but the travel and the whole works. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can't imagine. And a lot of folks out there don't understand playing competitive golf. You're playing long rounds. You're out in the elements. Your body, especially to compete for as long as you did, that's a challenge. That's a whole nother world to keep your body in the right realm, or at least competitively charged. And that's something people don't understand. Playing 8 rounds walking under tournament conditions is grueling.
Yeah,
Absolutely
yeah.
grueling.
Well, and I'm sure we'll probably touch on this, but modern day, kind of what these guys are doing is pretty incredible. There's a physical fitness aspect to the game, the modern game, which is very important and doing the things that they're doing. But that was not a super high focus in my era, I can promise you. But just the nature of the game, you were fit. There's no doubt about that, but not to the degree where the modern game is taking these guys and
Yeah.
women. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So walk me through kind of those first few years. Was there doubts at any time, or was that just a kind of a steady progression to your elite level in the early 80s where you're just like, hey, you're learning, you're cutting your teeth, you're getting better, you can see that next level. Walk me through the kind of the mid to late 70s.
Yeah. Well, that was, you put it well. It was a slower, progressive, kind of walk to, uh, you know, later on enjoying some success. But I enjoyed the first years. Again, back to that statement I made, felt very comfortable with being involved on the tour and being a tour player. I always felt a comfort level with that. I think very important. I was never nervous about it, and I always kind of had this deep belief that I was gonna make it. I was gonna get there, and I didn't try to hurry the process. I just gradually learned and gradually got better and made some kind of walk through some thresholds. I like everybody involved in the game, I walked through some demons. I had the anger issues, and you know, the game, as you well know, will chew you up and spit you out. But I was able to, walk through some of the tough stuff that I dealt with, kind of in the life of the game, my life in the game, and ultimately, kind of about third or fourth year in, began to see some real breakthroughs, and that's when I began to have some success.
Yeah, and of all the conversations we've had, Bill, which is in the hundreds, um, I would think a common thing there is talking about, or at least the topic or the underlying tone of dealing with adversity, right? Um, no question. I think we all feel that, whether it's in the game of golf for sure, but also in life. Can you speak to the development of your character, that kind of grittiness, the the inner confidence that you're getting, you will get through it.
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned earlier, I did have, I was so strung up with an intense kind of uh, nature about me that I really had to work. And through a lot of failures, had to work taming that anger, the hot emotion, because that won't. Not that it's not good to be strung a little hot, but you have to learn to play the game, the game of life as well, and develop poise and the ability to control your emotions. I remember. And it's been well documented, Gary Player's comment about you have to love adversity and embrace it. And that doesn't mean it necessarily feels any good, because it doesn't. I mean, it'll wind you up, and there's but you play the game uh, to really find out who you are, and the experience of playing golf will certainly reveal that. And adversity is just it's just a part of the game of golf. And uh, uh, I look back is I was always pretty much a learner as I played, and everybody that plays the game at a high level will have times when it seems reasonably easy, but more often than not, it's the game it can be a struggle. Scotty Scheffler isn't necessarily thinking it's too much of a struggle now, but. Um,
God.
to play at those levels, you have to play with great belief. Even when things are not going so well, you really have to draw deep on belief that this is what you do. You're excellent at it. We're going to have patience through the low times, but we're going to be able to, you know, also deal with success. I would say that we may get to that a little bit later, but success, you have to prepare yourself for success as well as failure. And I don't think that I was very good at that. Ultimately, may have had some reasons for the reason I left the tour, what some would say pretty early.
Hmm. Well, it's funny how there's like this narrative about you leaving the tour early, whereas like I look at it as like for well more than a decade you played golf at a super elite level. People don't understand that, right?
Yeah.
And how grueling that would be, especially having a spouse, um, and living that tour lifestyle and being in that consistent grind. And it's the reflecting on my golf career, it was always like those intangibles that I knew to be true that you were instilling in me. And I'll never forget playing with Carlos Ortiz. Was he North
North
Texas?
Texas, yeah.
North Texas. And he was the number one there. I was fortunate enough to be the number one here. Both of our teams were fairly average, so we got paired quite a bit together. And that inner belief, I could tell he had it.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm like, you can't describe it. You have to witness it. And he wouldn't do anything crazy fancy. He didn't have a perfect swing. He just knew exactly how to get the ball in the hole. And there's so many correlations to that and life and that inner confidence. And I think we see that in other people. It's just how do you develop it? And that's the secret sauce, right?
Yeah, it really is. That's the kind of the final frontier. And what do we say? That's kind of the uh, enters the mentality or the mental realm of the game. And there are a lot of folks that can really play golf, but to get to a kind of, as you call it, the elite level, it requires a whole lot of mental stamina and confidence, good character, good poise, playing the game the right way, and taking the good with the bad with the good, and lots of good things go on, and on the way, in the journey. Yeah, for sure.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, let's kind of fast forward to your first win at the Bob Hope. Was it called the Bob Hope back then
It,
on
it
tour?
was. It was played in Palm Springs, California, Bob Hope Desert Classic. And in fact, so many early days, lots of the tour stops were named after celebrity players. And in fact, that's how the tour actually began. It kind of in that players associating with celebrities, and so there were a lot of early stops that dealt with the celebrity group.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Bill. Was that the only 5 round tournament of the schedule?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, yeah.
Gotcha. When you reflect on that week, what comes front of mind for you?
Well, the first thing. I started the year, that was an early year tournament, January, February, on the tour. But I'd come off a win in Japan, a major tournament in Japan called the Japan Masters, the Taiheiyo Masters. And heck, I was full of me, full of confidence. I couldn't wait for the tour to start in January. And it really parlayed, and kind of the momentum of that spilled over into early 1978. And shoot, I was able to kind of break through for a PGA Tour win at the Bob Hope
Mm,
tournament.
love that. That that's interesting. Kind of that rolling momentum that golf can offer us. And I wanted to kind of pinpoint something there and ask a fairly detailed question, but even in my last few years when I've been playing golf, or even I feel the same thing in real estate if I get on a really nice run of business. Same with golf. If I feel like, ooh, this is a good feeling, I enjoy this, I'm excited to get out and play, I have some confidence. There's like this voice in the back of my head being like, you're gonna wake up tomorrow and not have that. And how did you delay that voice, or did you just not hear it? Because kind of from 78 for about 4 years, you went on a crazy run.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say I specifically heard that voice, but I would, if you will, cut to the chase and saying, I, we're athletes, and we were gifted with a great ability, good hand-eye coordination, and to play this. Of course, in your case, hockey, and I played all the sports, and very talented, and parlayed that into a very good golf game. But you give an athlete confidence or momentum or this great belief in their self, and watch out what's going to happen. And obviously that's the thing all of us as athletes certainly would like to capture and bottle and take it with us and drink it when, but it's not the case. And we have to go through the ups and downs, and again, usually learning more from the failures than the successes. But there's nothing like kind of the magic, as you called it earlier, magic sauce of confidence. Boy, it is, and that really had everything to do with, we'll, I'm sure, speak about 1981. But when you get a hold of it, you wanna be a part of it for forever. Yeah, but that's not always the case.
Yeah, um it's the most, I would say, rewarding feeling, or the whether that's an emotion, that confidence emotion is just, it's so appealing, and it's so, when you have it, it just, you want more of it, right? And
No doubt. And, I always felt like, and to phrase it out, if you can play the game and feel like you're never in trouble, that's a confidence level that has a lot to do with great short game. But that ability to invest in the game, to capture that, even if it be for a little while, a long while, whatever, it it'll certainly turn you to being grateful for the ability to be a part of any game.
hmm yeah, it is it it's what I chase in the summer. I know that because usually there's about 2 to 3 weeks in the summer where I got it,
Yeah.
whatever it is, and my life is just nice. It feels really good.
I often say, "Gosh, boy, this is pretty easy," but the game will humble you tomorrow.
Gosh. Well, let's get into 1981. You are 29 years old at the time. What, and this is a question from my good friend Dylan. He's an amazing player in town here. And I had asked him. I called him a couple days ago. I said, "What is one question you would like to ask Bill?" And and it's very much what was on my mind too. Is going going from a solid tour player to that next level, which is where the elite of the elite, the top couple in the world get to. You got there. You made that jump from the 0.001% even up to that higher echelon, top world class rung. Was it just that confidence building, or was there like a breaking point to where you're like, oh boy, this is different than even an elite level? Was there anything that you did to encourage that?
No, and I'd like to set the table a little bit. Comparatively speaking, anyway, I wasn't. All of us are obviously enter the game, or we're all we come to it differently. Tiger Woods, whether really believing it in his heart as he did probably 99.9% of the time, that he's going to win every time. Uh, that was a mentality that was instilled in him. I never had that. I I took the game as it came to me, and to break it down simply, one shot at a time, one tournament at a time, one week at a time, one year. I uh, never showed up, but I didn't step in front of knowing that I uh, was coming in either playing poorly or with this great confidence level. But I took it as it come, and as it would come, and frankly. Uh, I think the understanding who I was had a lot to do with being able to step into, kind of that crazy realm for just a little while. I was on the radar screen for just a moment, and that was good, and I'm forever grateful for it. But uh, back to one of our early comments about kind of making some steady progress in the game. Well, this was no different. The summer of 1981, which was June, at the U.S. Open at Merion in Philadelphia, I finished second to David Graham, and uh, really had a very good chance. I was always kind of right there, and he never stubbed his toe, never had a hiccup the last day. So he ended up winning, I think, by 3 over me. But runner up was heck. I was beaming with confidence, and a month later, I'm at the Open Championship, full of confidence, and a golf course that was a very difficult. Not that all Open Championship venues are not, but this one in particular, and it was the first time that the Open had returned there in many years. So not many of the players were familiar with the venue. But anyway, I just played well. There were some ups and downs, certainly the last day. But the fact of the matter is, I played, uh, kind of the golf of my life that week, and full of confidence, full of poise, full of belief, and just allowed myself to stay in the moment. And I never got ahead of myself, behind myself. I just uh, I played championship golf, and uh, never imagined myself in that realm. Trust me, I never imagined myself as a major championship winner. But I felt like the Bob Hope was a major championship, or the Heritage Classic at Harbortown, or some of these other events. All of it was meaningful to me. But as I held out on the last green, the 72nd hole at the Open Championship, my life as I knew it changed in an instant. And I'm not sure I was quite ready for it. Back to my comment about you might ought to plan for success as well as failure.
Well, that is amazing. That whole story is so cool, Bill. And keep me in school on this. But in 1981, seven worldwide wins, 4 tour wins, including the British Open. PJ Tour Player of the Year. Just a caveat here, I looked up some of the players that were amongst your peers at the time: Billy Casper, Lee Trevino, Hale Irwin, Johnny Miller, Tom Watson, Gary Player, Jack Nicklaus. This was, I would say, apples to apples, probably one of the most stacked times of players on tour at a high level.
Yeah.
You're getting a lot of younger future Hall of Famers starting to play their best, but you also have what I would call kind of the older people, still not that old, still competing, still in contention in those major championships. So it's just, when I put it on paper, I'm just like, holy smokes. The week of the British Open there, cool story about you almost missing your tee time. Can you just give the cliff notes of that?
Yeah, the first day, my caddy and I, uh, you know, flippantly saying, I mean, we kind of went to sleep. I'd finished my practice session on the practice tee, was on the putting green, just absolutely mindless, and it's inside a minute to my tee time. The tee is probably 30, 40 yards from the putting green, and I'm just putting. My caddy's over there sitting on the bag, and a reporter. I'll never forget his name. And I see him every year I go over there. His name is John Whitbread. He walks over to the putting green. He says, "Bill, I think you may be on the tee." And I look over there, and my playing partners are on the tee box getting ready to hit, and I just haul over there, show up at just the nick of time to hit my tee shot. And so that was the beginning of it. But had he not come over there, I was on a plane back to the U.S. That's all there is to it. I'd have missed my tee time. So
It's
God's shown favor on me. That's all I can say.
it's easy to laugh about now, but like that story is amazing. Like, what if he wasn't there at that time?
No, it's absolutely lights out. I'm on my way back to the United States.
Let's dive into that final round a little bit and talk about that adversity. You had, was it a 5-shot lead going into the last
Yeah,
round?
yeah, which was unfamiliar territory. I've never had a 5-shot lead in a junior tournament. So I there was I could tell you, driving to the golf course the last day with a 5-shot lead, I felt differently. And not that you're not going to have kind of these players' nerves, which you learn to control them. But man, I knew something felt different, and I had a reasonably restful night, but I knew on the first tee that things felt a little different, and as a I went out not to lose rather than going out to win. And on the seventh hole, I'll never forget it, but I make double bogey to everybody else is back in the tournament now. I had a 5-shot lead. Now it's a 1-shot lead.
Just bring them all back in.
Bring
Bring
them all back in. I can't stand it. But as I reflect back on it, back to our talk about adversity, the absolute best thing that could have happened to me, complete wake up call, is like being hit with a ton of bricks. And I'm forever grateful for it. But I knew how to handle that moment. And experience had taught me not to panic. Your mind wants to race 100 miles an hour. In my case, kind of a fast player anyway, I wanted to walk fast. Everything speeds up 1,000 miles an hour, but I was able to make my way through it, understand the emotion, control that emotion. The only thing that I had before me, and the only thing that required my focus, was the tee shot on number 8. And I was able to boil it down to that. And I can't tell you, that doesn't magically happen. Experience, as I described earlier, the best teacher. And I was able to draw on it right there. And I wouldn't say I was made for the moment, but the moment was made for me, and I was able to meet the challenge, and I did. So.
That's amazing. To my ear, you said you use that as a wake up call, whereas a lot of people would be like, "Oh, this is a burden. This is happening to me. This is going to be a nightmare. Here we go."
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you just had that inner confidence to
Yeah.
be like, stopping it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I can remember 1,000 times. Oh, here we go again. Look what I've done. But thankfully, grateful, I had so many experiences leading up into that I could overcome it. So grateful.
Yeah.
And I've often told when I have the great privilege of speaking to young men like yourself, boy, take adversity and embrace it, like it, love it, because boy, there's a lot to learn in it. It doesn't feel necessarily too good, but boy, just be grateful for it.
I love that, Bill. Thank you for that. That's just such a good reminder for everyone, really. Whatever phase of life people are in, right? Like whatever season, that is no doubt good advice. Now, speaking of that, actually, so you hit your tee shot on number 8. Could you share the story about? I think it was a couple weeks later you ran into Sevi by Esteros. Can you share what he shared with you or
Yeah.
that conversation?
Oh yeah, and it had everything to do with the eighth hole. The eighth hole was the hardest hole, maybe the second hardest hole on the golf course. I hit a good tee shot, and had 3-iron. Hit a 3-iron on the front of the green. Probably had a 60-footer, maybe it was 65, 55. But it was a long putt, and I rolled it up 3 feet from the hole, and rolled the 3-footer in. 2 weeks later, I forgot the tournament where we were, but Sevi walked up to me and he didn't say congratulations or anything. He says, "To put on number 8 is where you won the Open Championship." And he was right. Had I missed that 3-footer, now Boy, that lets in um,
All the demons.
all the demons, and I very well. But that 3 footer was. I didn't get over it. Think, oh gosh, I've got to make that. You don't do that. Another 3 footer, able to have good presence of mind, knocked it in. But he was right. That 3 footer was very important, and he recognized it. Yeah.
It's really cool to hear that from a peer of yours at that time because, in retrospect, people see, he was leading after the third round, he stumbled a bit, he closed the deal. But there's like a million little things within that where all that adversity and all that pain, what temporary pain was happening, right?
Yeah.
And it's
Big time.
that's so cool.
The
So cool.
the beauty of the game, actually, the ups and downs, and can you handle it? Is what it can you take on the challenge? And for a little while, I did.
Yeah. Well, you had mentioned a couple minutes ago about your life changing after that 72nd hole. You hoist the claret jug. Did a major win? Did that come with 10-year exemption, or was it five back
No,
in?
actually, it did not. Not to the PGA Tour.
Mm,
Somehow, well, it was a month later at the World Series of Golf in Akron, Ohio. I won there, and that did allow me or afford me a 10-year exemption, which is, kind
that's
of
yeah.
the golden chalice there. But to some degree, maybe that had a little to do with my early exit from the game, if you, in fact, if some would call it that.
Mm.
Anyway, there were so many things that changed because of that. Maybe we might get into that a little bit, but there was a lot that happened in a short amount of time based on winning a major championship.
That's crazy because you hit the tour in 75 was your first
Hmm.
year, right? And then 6 years later you get this golden ticket of a 10-year exemption, and that's amazing.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I know in my peer group, that's what everybody would dream about. Oh boy, would I like to have the big exemption? Boy, that'll carry me right on through life.
Mhm.
Little did I know there were some detours along the way.
There you go. Well, and I think we might dip our toe into that a little bit later, Bill. But I want to stick on 1981. It was a Ryder Cup year,
Yeah.
away game in England. You guys smoked them. When you look back on that week, what are your memories? I mean, it wasn't even close. Was it just you guys were that much better? I mean, your team was stacked.
Yeah.
Walk me through that week.
Well, I still almost as much as I cherish the fact that I was able to win the Open Championship, but to have been a part of that Ryder Cup team, which is arguably, there are a lot of people claimed it to be the best Ryder Cup team ever. So, and arguably it certainly was. And I look at the picture regularly, and so what am I doing with that cast of characters in there? I'm serious. It was a wonderful get together, and we loved our captain Dave Marr. He was a PGA champion. We wanted to win for him, and the team was so awesome that uh, the betting public was certainly knowing that it looked real strong for the Americans. But Bruce Litsky and I didn't make much addition to that. Marr thought that we were an automatic team because we were best friends and we lose our opening 2 matches. So um, that was uncomfortable to say the least. But uh, it was a big victory, and to have been a part of that was amazing. And gosh, just cherish memories. And one thing I did want to say, and you framed it up so well, naming some of the players that I was able to compete with in that even particular Open Championship. Arnold Palmer had just come from winning the Senior Open about 3 weeks early. He was beaming with confidence. I mean, he's 50, probably 51 or 2 years old. And man, he's thinking he's getting ready to win and the press is all over him. But, he was still very much in belief that he was a factor, and he was to arguably. But I played, I think, in the very best era of golf. Like you said, got to touch the Palmers, certainly the Nicklases, but Caspers and the Mars, and people that really had a lot to do with the development of the tour. And then got to play with my group and Crenshaw and Litsky and Pate and tremendous uh,
There,
players.
there is literally, and my acumen on PGA Tour history isn't that deep, but there is dozens of legends of that era.
Yeah.
It is the rosters are so deep, and I think that's so cool that you did catch that wave of Arnold Palmer where he was very much still relevant,
Oh yeah.
and that's really cool. Speaking of Arnold Palmer or even Jack, how on the tour, how much chumming along was there with those types of guys, or did you kind of just stick to you and Crenshaw and Litsky and did you guys just kind of stay in your own pod, or talk me through kind of the behind the scenes of the tour?
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. And, we often hear of cliques. The tour's cliquish. I mean, you come out with your friends group, so to speak, and that doesn't mean that you're segregated from the group. But to some degree, there's some social and there's some interaction, but it's kind of a traveling band of gypsies, actually. I mean, you show up, there's so many, as many players as there are, there's that many different personalities. And I know Nicholas and Palmer in the world that they lived in. It's not like that they were there on all the time. They had so many obligations and stuff going on, as did many of us. So you interact, and then you're gone. You come together, then you're separated. But uh, one thing, it's wonderful to have a great friends base. On the tour, it's supportive, and you've got to have some degree of normalcy in doing this kind of lifestyle, because it's such an individual pursuit. But you need that, and you really cherish the wonderful relationships you made. But it's there's some locker room time, but then there's serious time. There are people you like to play with. There's people you didn't like to, all that. But it's all kind of a learning how you fit in this world of professional golf. And some love it a lot. Some kind of love it. Some weren't comfortable with it. You didn't hear much from them. They were shipped out pretty early, but it's an interesting study, no doubt about it. There's some things with modern game that have changed, that only a few in my era got to experience. The private jets, the whole world certainly made the world easier for them. And now, but better play affords you some of the luxuries of the lifestyle, no doubt about it.
Well, and keep me in school on this too, Bill. But if I remember correctly, through some of our talks, the game was different back when you played at a high level because traveling and appearance fees were very common, maybe more so now, and required you to travel and legitimately have a global schedule.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that? Like, how did that all come about? Did you have an agent, or like how did that all work?
Yeah, that was very much a part of what from an international standpoint. I kind of headed the list on that. I traveled. I went for it, especially as a major champion. The world wants to see the Open champion, so I didn't disappoint. I went to every corner of the globe. But in all honesty, Ryan, based on maybe my upbringing, Air Force and very middle class type, I for whatever reason I love the almighty dollar and appearance fees and going for it. I went for it big time, and probably to a fault, and I would definitely admit that it became a um, kind of a focus and probably a distraction from the game I loved, and ultimately had something to do with me leaving the professional game. But traveling, getting appearance fees, that was kind of getting your nest made, and that was appealing to me, and I went for it. And I had an agent that was had the ability to create opportunity all over the world. I took advantage of it, and in fact, there's a good book out now. My agent has written a book called uh, oh golly, I'm drawing a blank. I'll come up with it. But
Yeah, that's,
any,
what was your agent's name?
Hughes Norton, golly, I can't believe I can't call the. But anyway, he was able through Mark McCormick's group to create all the opportunities, and I didn't miss a one.
Just fill the schedule up. You'll be
Oh yeah,
there.
fill it up. Yeah, let me go. I wanted to go.
I want to circle back on lifestyle a little bit, but I want to get through one more Ryder Cup. 1999, you're now in the assistant captain role. People know that as the Battle of Brookline. First question I have there, was that your first exposure to Tiger on an in-depth level?
It wasn't. He actually came to San Antonio, Texas, when I was at San Antonio Country Club for a stint that I was the director of golf there, and we hosted an AJGA tournament. Tiger actually came. I believe it might have been 1992, 3, 4, something like that. And of course, he won. But I got to meet him and was around him a little bit, but and knew that he was definitely destined for stardom, greatness. And then for my one of my great friends in life, Ben Crenshaw, to ask Bruce Litsky and myself to be assistant captains uh, in '99 at Brookline, and knowing that we would be a part of a great mix of but a great young team, and Mickelson, Tiger, David Duval, and the likes, but then with Hal Sutton, Davis Love, Payne Stewart, it was kind of one of those teams you could throw in there as one of the great teams like mine of 90 of 81. So it was pure privilege to then be around them on a quite an intimate basis, actually, and
Mm.
got to be involved in their lives for a week.
Totally different environment than any other golf event, really.
No
You know.
doubt, no doubt.
So you guys make a massive comeback in the Sunday singles. Um, Also, side note, probably the worst golf shirts in history.
There was more made of those golf shirts, I think, than the actual comeback, to be honest
Uh,
with you. But yeah, they were, but they played a significant role. And I think everybody would know that they were pictures of past U.S. Winning teams, of which the 81 Ryder Cup team was on there. But uh, there was quite a lot to be said about the shirts, no doubt.
so, and I would think, I mean, if someone's gonna make, a documentary of the top five iconic golf moments in all of golf, probably that's up there. Justin Leonard, right? Iconic putt on
Mm.
17 up the hill. Where where were you in that moment? Were you on that hole, or just, obviously that's probably ingrained in your memory, but talk me through the emotions of that.
I wasn't. I was with the Furyk Garcia match, of which Jim Furyk won. Very important match. But Justin, just a little back note. Of course, we're on communication with the radios, and Justin is just getting hammered. By a Luther ball, and Crenshaw said there was so much to the story the last day, but the long and short of it was Crenshaw asked if there's anybody that if Davis Love had won his match easily. If anybody's in the area that can go pick up Davis and bring him out to Justin, best of friends, and build up his spirits. We've got to. It looks like this is going to be the match. My friend Bruce Litsky goes and picks Davis Love up, brings him, and Davis basically walking down the 11th fairway gives Justin a huge pep talk, and that's really when the tide turned, and uh, Justin was able to put it all together, and the rest was history with the putt on 17.
That's a cool story.
Amazing.
I didn't know that actually.
Yeah.
That's
He was my wife. She walked every hole with Justin Leonard, and she kind of gave me an update about, we're human, and I mean his daughter was down. He wasn't playing well. He was getting drummed, and the fact that Davis was able to lift his spirits up and gave him we got to have this type deal, and he reached deep and pulled it out.
it. I love stories like that because, you can't see anything technically that changed, right? It's not like it's just that character and that
Yeah.
overcoming adversity, and it's so intangible. You can't touch it, you can't describe it. It just has to be witnessed, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's that's pretty cool. Now, your transition period from playing golf to other things. Now, how long was that on your mind before you pulled the plug, if you will?
Yeah.
'Cause the reason I ask is I've noticed within myself that I let things go on too long that don't serve me, usually about a year too long, and then I'm like, okay, I'm finally doing it. I get to the other side of that and I feel so much better. I'm like, well, why didn't I just do it when I initially felt that? Can you talk to kind of the emotions, or like did you have an inkling prior to leaving the tour?
Exactly. I'm no different than you. No, no doubt about it. I actually, 1988, the end of the year, October, I walked away from the tour. And frankly, maybe for certain a year longer than it should have been. I could sense even in 1986 that and there were for a lot of reasons. I don't want to belabor the reasons, but there were a lot of reasons. And basically, I kind of reached the end of the rope, so to speak, and pulled the plug after the '88 season. And the great affirmation for me was, after having left the tour, was never had a regret. I never missed it.
Amazing.
And again, lots of reasons that brought that. I didn't overthink it, but like you, it's probably a year or two. Like '87, I can remember in 1987 playing in events and wishing I was doing anything in the world but playing professional golf. And I'd gotten so deep and dark down in the bottom of the barrel, it was bad. And I thank the Lord that he kind of gave me another chance of doing something else besides playing the game.
Yeah, appreciate that, Bill. I appreciate the honesty there. And correct me if I'm wrong, but your first endeavor, if you will, because I know there's been a few all in the golf realm, but was it director of golf at San Antonio Country Club? Was that it?
Well, it was, but I had a very good friend who was a golf course architect, a fellow named Ron Pritchard, and I'd done some work with him, and I had the opportunity to actually follow him and kind of begin a design career. But I knew in the depths of my heart that I wanted to go home. I wanted to be still. I didn't want to. I didn't want to travel. I wanted to get my feet up under me. I wanted to raise a family, and that was hyper focused. And so I dismissed that. So this opportunity to be a director of golf at a country club, San Antonio Country Club, and I applied for it and got the job. And I would tell you, in my world of being a successful, maybe not at that time, but having reached the pinnacle of professional golf, to even imagine becoming a director of golf at a country club, of which now coming from a world where I served one to now serving hundreds, that's quite a humbling experience. I won't get into the ins and outs of that, but best thing in the world for it. So thankful for it. And it was easily some of the best years of my life. Not quite as good as being involved with the golf teams at the University of Texas, San Antonio, where you were, but it was the beginning of a new world for me. And boy, I look back with great fondness and thankfulness for having had to do it.
Sounds like you know uh, we all go through kind of seasons of life, but it genuinely sounds like you embraced that new season of life, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, no doubt. Thank you for that. And I'd only wrap that up by saying, my wife and I have two young children then, and the idea of, being somewhat normal and being at home and having an opportunity to be involved in their lives and not just a world all about me, that was real appealing to me. And so it's all not with some Humpty Dumps and bumps and bruises and along the way. I mean, everything hadn't been just but boy, we've been blessed more than we could ever imagine.
That's so cool. Bill, this question I have for you, it would not have even entered my mind 15 and a half months ago before our son was born. But I want to talk about fatherhood and how did that change you, and how did that change your life? Because I know it certainly has for me in ways that I couldn't even comprehend before.
Yeah. Well, Ryan, you for the parents listening and for speaking to you, it's you know leaving back to that comment I made, leaving a profession where it was all me focused and self focused, and then all of a sudden being faced with the uh, great uh, challenge before you of being a parent, of which now you are giving up self, having to become selfless to do things involved with the family of being the best father you can, the best dad you can be, the best husband you can be, the best friend you can be. And those things easily trumped the anything that had happened to me before. It's all a part of the journey, obviously, but these things became very apparent to me that this is a new opportunity. This is a new journey, and I had to fail plenty in the parenthood, and continue to, by the way. But it's a learning process, and it's all meaningful and profitable in the end. And now a grandparent, so I have opportunity to share in their lives, but it's all been worth the effort. Yeah.
It, I remember at the hospital there, holding Mav for the first time, and the emotion that I felt. I'm like, this is a new thing. This is new, and everything's been new in the last 16 months. It's just it's a world that you don't know exists until it happens, right? And your comment about selflessness, like for me personally, there's been some friction within myself with that concept, right? But the more I kind of lean into it, the better it feels, right? And it's so different because I've certainly been very selfish,
Yeah.
especially trying to play in university days. It's a one man show, right? It is.
Well, it is, and boy, I'm glad you're bringing this up because, but all of it is, part of our life story, and I won't get too deep into that. But we're just learners, and we're not going to always get it right. But uh, you've been prepared for parenthood. You've done so many things well, and we ultimately we want to be a giver, and we want to speak greatness into uh, people we might meet, especially our children. And I know that you're going to do that with Maverick, and Maverick drew good in the parent group. I know that.
Appreciate that. Well, I do have what I call the Twilight Range session of questions that I just couldn't fit in. And the reason I call it this is because I've had many late night range sessions where you don't know what's coming.
Yeah.
You're just trying to search. So any question here you can pass on, okay? But I tell this story often to my friend group and they don't believe me. So I want to get clarity on this, okay? When you were playing the tour, if I keep me in school on this, there was a certain yardage where you would not get an actual yardage from your caddy. Can you elaborate on that? Or am I
Uh,
making this up?
No, you probably aren't. I had such a good relationship, such a good rapport with my longtime caddy that, he knew me better than I knew me, and I knew a lot about him. But we played the game kind of in perfect harmony from time to time, and there were times where he wouldn't even have to say anything, or there were times when he would have to say some things. But that's what you yearn for, and that's what is so intriguing about being able to watch modern day golf. We see some of these long-standing caddy player relationships. Shoot, they're they spend more time with their caddies, by the way, than they do their wives, families. But so there's no wonder that it's an important relationship, and it's of great value because um, it's how you play the game. You know, it's a dance, and you rely on your partner there a lot.
Scheffler comes to mind right now,
Yeah.
obviously, right, with his caddy. Now, another question here, changing it up. Favorite player to be paired with when you're playing?
Oh, that's a good. I'd always say Tom Watson. You know, when I was going well and he was going well, we seemed to get paired a lot. Did a lot of battle together. I was usually on the wrong end of the winning there. He taught me a lot, but I loved to play with him. There was no distraction, no nonsense. I mean, he had played at a great pace, kind of a quicker pace. Was just you knew what to expect. You weren't going to get anything different from him. He played the game well with intensity. You never knew whether he was shooting five over or five under. You know, he didn't shoot five over very often, but he he was just a good person to be paired with.
Love that. And we didn't even touch on this, but the 82 Open at Pebble when he chips in on
Yeah.
17, because we always see on Golf Channel that whole clip, and you're standing right there.
Oh yeah.
You finished third if I remember correctly,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
What was that like? Like if I was you at that time, I wouldn't be happy for the guy. I know that, but that chip
Yeah.
shot that he hit, I've heard is quite daunting. Were you surprised?
Well, not really, because I'd played with him enough to know that in the realm that he played in, anything could happen at any time, and he was a master of doing the miraculous. And there were a lot of things that happened earlier that day that were not as impacting as the chip in, but he did some pretty incredible things earlier in that round to eventually pull it out over Nicholas. But I had a moment there where I was in the lead through 9 holes the last day, and then kind of the emergence of some of his spectacular stuff kind of came about. And but he had a lot on the line there because he had failed in several U.S. Opens and hadn't gotten over the hump. So to eventually broke through as he did was pretty special, and I was glad to be a part of it.
That's crazy because typical highlight reel or headlines of an article, people forget that you were leading after nine. They just think that Watson beat Nicholas, and
Yeah,
that
that's and well, it should be. I mean, those certainly the two highlighters of our time. And I wasn't even aware. I was so into what I was doing and playing well enough, but didn't make anything the last 5 or 6 holes to be right there. But I was completely so much into what I was doing, and you always know what your playing opponent is doing. But I didn't even realize Nicholas had kind of gone on a tear and gotten in the clubhouse, and had a very good chance of winning the event. Yeah.
Hmm. That's such a cool story. What is the best golf shot you hit under the gun? What comes to mind?
Yeah, it was again Watson involved, but I lost to him at the Byron Nelson tournament in Dallas, Texas. But the 72nd hole, I hit a 3 iron into the last hole. It hit the pin and bounced away from the pin about 8 inches, and to birdie the last hole, and we go into a playoff. I lose the playoff to him, but there was something about that shot. Hit it right in the middle of the club face, high, just 100% imagined that is the shot you'd want to hit it under the circumstances, and I did. So I
Hmm.
remember that one as much as any of them.
I love that it wasn't really a thought for you, like you had
No,
that.
you're asked that. What was the best shot you ever hit? So I talk about it frequently. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. Now Texas Open in 1981. That's was it after the British Open?
Yes.
It was, yeah. So at Oak Hills,
Okay.
which we know quite well. I love that place. Um, you beat your best friend Ben Crenshaw, right?
Yeah.
Good. You shot 63 in the final round, which is I played probably 100 times at at Oak Hills. That is a tall task to do, not to mention on a final round. What was that playoff like? I couldn't find any details on it. Did they go back to 18
Well,
or?
that was before television. It was so long ago. I mean, or radio. There wasn't any, not really. But all I remember is uh, I made a 12-footer for birdie to beat him. He had made, he was going to make par, but I hit a good shot from the fairway in 12 feet and made the putt. And so it was but if there was Crenshaw did, one thing that he didn't own was an admirable playoff career. 0-11. He
Really?
lost every one of them. Yeah, and I happened to come out on on top that day, but it's awkward to beat a very very close friend, but I wanted to win more than I wanted to accommodate him. I promise you. So anyway. That was, and you want to win in your home state, Texas. So I was a happy champion. Yeah.
That's amazing. Last kind of topic, if you will, or phase that I want to get into, Bill, and then we can wrap this up. But I needed to bring up, you coaching my team at University of Texas at San Antonio. How did that come about? Were you naturally pulled into that world, or did it just fall on your lap?
It fell in my lap. Lynn Hickey, our, director of, uh, athletic director there. Uh, I guess somebody had maybe mentioned to her that I was kind of in a limbo. I was, it was post Briggs Ranch there, of which we know. But she she asked if I'd like to come and be a part of the golf program. They were kind of doing a reset on the golf program, and I thought, that sounded like a good fit. And gosh, they were bringing in two new coaches, John Canauer for the men and Kerry Cole for the women, and said, "Gosh, if I can support them and have the opportunity to, be around these young men and women, and kind of with a little knowledge of what goes on at a competitive level, sounds like it's a good fit." So there we were. Yeah.
Those were undoubtedly not only like the most fun 4 years of my life, but I think back of the most important 4 years of my life, from becoming a boy into a man, really.
Yeah.
And I know that's the purpose of university, a lot of it. Um, but it 4 years just goes like that,
Oh,
and
it's so fast. Yeah.
it's crazy. I have one more question from a good friend of mine, Kelly Risling. You'd actually written him a letter years back. This was something he got inducted into the Medicine Hat Sports Hall of Fame. Same thing. I asked him. I said, "Hey, I'm interviewing Bill in a couple days. Do you have a question?" And he said the following: As assistant coach at UTSA, you're quoted numerous times as saying, "I teach the kids to hate bogey, not what it should look like at the top of the backswing."
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that?
Well, that's who I was, and my good friend Curtis, excuse me, Curtis Strange made that comment one time, and there's a lot to be said. You could unpack that in a volume of books, I promise you.
Yeah.
But you and like you had talked about tangible things. This is an intangible, hate and bogey, and as much as anything that would speak to me as a player, my golf game, my professional life, I was intense. I was strung up hot, and I just, whether I hated bogey or I hated to lose more than I liked to win. That in maybe my innermost being, that's who I was. I had to learn to manage that, tame it, and uh, that speaks to being a competitor. And not everybody's like that. Some people kind of are just so gifted, maybe have a softer approach, and just are so incredibly talented that almost can kind of walk through the tulips and have a good time and make a wonderful go of it. But to my knowledge, all the really great ones strung up pretty tight, and I mean hot. And two that come to, well, there's a long list of them, but Tiger Woods and Curtis Strange are two of the haven't been around, two of the most intense competitors. I'm talking about from a physical standpoint, but mentally, they invested more than you could possibly uh, dream up and learn to develop. But
Hmm.
that's kind of who I was. I went hard.
And I think that that quote of hating bogey more than what it looks like at the top of the swing, like there's so many parallels to life in that. I mean that is it's like it's a brand that you could wear, right? And you certainly have instilled that in me, Bill, and I just wanted to acknowledge you for that and thank you for all your time. And you came into my life in at a very and I didn't know this at the time, but a very malleable time in my life from going from fish out of water in a big city, big university, didn't know anyone, and you were always there for me and continue to be. So just want to say thank you because I know I'm not the only one that is in that realm for you. So I'm so grateful for your friendship and for your mentorship.
Well, you don't know how much that means to me. It means everything to me to hear comments like that. Let me just say one thing. In closing, that um, I know that when we first met, and to see you as a young man, but also a player, you were as gifted and as talented a player as I could ever imagine seeing. And I've seen a lot of them then, before, and even present day. But I've never seen a person more meant physically and mentally as you embarked on a college career. Um, you were a can't miss, and we both know kind of, and it's just the nature of life, the journey we take. Uh, Maybe drifted off course to whatever degree, and you can unpack that but you were a great model for the your friends group, and no, I don't know of many people that have done it better. And from from a marriage to now a father, you've got everything that it takes to be make a difference, and that's ultimately what we want. We want to make a difference, and you're going to do that. You are doing that.
I appreciate that so much. And I wrestled with that, going off course and, I wanted a do-over, and that season of life was not the easiest, but gosh, do I draw on that now. There's
Oh
nothing
yeah,
that can be tougher than that, right?
no.
And
No
yeah.
regret. No regrets. No excuses. You're not built that way. You're not strung up that way. But I can just remember standing on tee boxes with you, and all you ask, where do I aim this? You just absolutely were just full on. Just let me go. Just uncaged. And boy, did I love walking with you and watching you develop up. You did it good. You did it
Thanks,
good.
Bill. Thank you. What I can't believe we did was walk 36 holes in one day. I would be in a wheelchair if I did that. Crazy.
But the gift of youth, I mean, and the game will do it to you. It infects us for sure.
Oh gosh. One last question. And probably the most important question I have for you. Okay. How many times have you been to Chipotle this week?
Oh gosh, I'll tell you, it's a weekly regiment. It's
Good.
on you've impacted me with the Chipotle
Oh,
bug so much, and well, we had some good visits at Chipotle, didn't we?
it's the best.
Oh, good.
Well, thank you, Bill. I know I've kept you for a while.
Oh no,
I appreciate you, and we'll certainly be in touch.
I
Okay.
love you, Ryan Weir.
You too. Thank you.
Thank
All right.
you.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.